Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. We're all here, we're all talking football, talking games from last week, previewing games from this week. There's football news. It's all here, it's all happening, it's all going on. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Drop any reviews you want to drop and generally share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send them this podcast. They will love you for it. Right, let's get started. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
That delightful voice, ladies and gentlemen, tells you everything you need to know. Welcome along to your weekly update and instalment of football-based nonsense with myself. But I'm not doing it alone. Along with me today, I have three very special guests, one of which is the creator of this very podcast empire that you see and hear before you, the aforementioned Mr. Andrew Cook. How are you, sir?
Just spectacular.
It's what we like to hear on a weekly basis. I'm also joined by Nottingham via Newcastle, via Birmingham, via pretty much all over the place. He is the Forest fan that brings you all the knowledge of the tricky trees. It is Mr. Matthew Moore. How are you, sir?
Wonderful.
The indication there will tell you all you need to know about Forest's recent results, ladies and gentlemen. And last but by absolutely no means least, he is Kingston upon Hull's finest. It is Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. How are you, sir?
Always average.
Always average. Always average. You can never be better than average, let's be honest. Well, yes, we come to you this week with 66% less managers than we did at this particular time last week. As at time of recording, only Nottingham Forest have their boss that they started the season with. On Friday evening, mere hours before they were due to take on Luton Town, Hull City announced that they had parted company with manager Shota Arveladze. How long had he been in the job for, Stu?
He took over, one or two games after the takeover, so February time, I think it was, from memory. I'm just going by the games because I remember being at the last one of McCann's and then turns out at the first one of Arveladze's as well, so it was around that time.
So around 6 months in charge?
Yeah, we talked about this before on the podcast. He never really changed anything. They brought in the players, but he did well when he first started playing Grant McCann players in a Grant McCann system, and then when he got his own crack at it, it never really came to fruition. So I think I ranted quite a lot on last week's podcast about how much I'd quite like him to go. Turns out sometimes you do get what you ask for. So here we are. But yeah, he was sacked about 8 hours before the game, so the day of the game. They put Andy Dawson, so club legend and defensive coach. They put him in temporary charge. But it is looking like we might have a new manager announced in the next 24 to 48 hours. So a guy called Pedro Martins, former Olympiacos manager, has been in Hull since the middle of this current week. Apparently been in the stands at the Wigan game as well. So it's understood to be coming in on a 3-year deal, and they're bringing in his old Olympiacos backroom staff as well. So the Hull Daily Mail quoted it as quite a coup for the Championship, as to which I was like, that's because I've never heard of him then. But yeah, obviously I am not the world's biggest football expert of all things football. But yeah, Paul, I probably want to ask Paul, have you heard of Pedro Martins before I mentioned him?
I hadn't until I listened to something on YouTube today by a creator who said that at one point he was linked with the Wolves job in the past. So if he's an ex-Olympiacos manager, he knows what it's like working for a volatile chairman. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I thought at first you were going to say it'd been linked with the Watford job, but I think by this point us four would have a crack at that.
I turned it down.
Yeah, well, tune in next week where we'll get Andy's thoughts on his first week as Watford's new manager.
It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. I foresee great things.
And do you know what? You're probably the most qualified of anyone who's taken the position in the last 12 months. So yes, as we said, 66% of the teams changed manager this week. It wasn't Nottingham Forest as at time of recording. But Middlesbrough, after 11 months, decided to part company with Chris Wilder. It's something we'd discussed potentially on the podcast that he needed to get results in his in the first game back after the international break. Obviously, we haven't come to that yet, but spoiler alert, he didn't. He made sweeping wholesale changes to the team. It was baffling, to say the least, the choices that he'd made from a first team perspective. A lot of people just came out on Facebook and said he's done that because he knows he's getting the bullet. It's happened before. Managers that are on the brink generally tend to pick either a weakened side or a side that's got a lot of changes from the previous game. I don't know if it's a coping mechanism and they say they can fall back on it and say, well, I experimented with something, we weren't getting any results. I at least tried something and that didn't work, so, I can't really be blamed much more. He hadn't helped himself in the fact that when Sean Dyche left Burnley at the midway through last season, he didn't distance himself from rumours linking him to the job. He would just come out in interviews and just say, you don't need to ask me about it, rather than just saying, listen, I've got a job at Middlesbrough. I'm not looking, I've got a contract for 2 years or whatever. I'm here for the long haul. Didn't say that. Didn't exactly help himself. And it came up again with the Bournemouth position. There's been loads of rumours doing the rounds that he's been linked with that job. Hasn't helped himself in the slightest by not distancing himself from the role. And then obviously the result of the weekend was kind of the final straw for him, and he was removed on Monday morning. Leo Perkovic, who first came to the club in a goalkeeping coach role under Aitor Karanka, has taken the role of caretaker manager, being assisted by a number of the youth team coaches, including Craig Liddell and Lee Cattermole. They took charge of the game tonight against Birmingham, so we'll come to that result in a minute. Early indications are that the early front runner for the job is Rob Edwards, who's just lost his job as Watford manager. Obviously, by the time this goes out and by the time that it comes around to Borough actually putting a new manager in place, the current Watford manager Slaven Bilic will have probably lost his job. So they might even be linked with Slaven Bilic. Who knows? Because Watford did not. As far as I'm aware, Watford didn't win tonight. So in fact, they lost the game in the last couple of minutes. So I think he's probably having his P45 readied as we speak.
They won their first game with him in charge 4-0, and the Watford fans must have been like, "Oh, thank God for that!" And then it comes to tonight, and they're like, "We've been here before."
So sad times. Obviously, he came with a big reputation, wasn't able to build on it. It never really seemed like it. There was a couple of moments when it seemed settled. Obviously, the FA Cup run last season was a big thing, but never really settled after that. It seemed as if that took a lot out of the team. They never really sort of recovered from that. As soon as they got dumped out by Chelsea, I think he'd out of the last 20-something games, he'd only won 8 or something like that. Not great form. And he's paid for it with his job. So yeah, Borough and Hull both looking for new managers, and Nottingham Forest, whilst not haven't officially sacked Steve Cooper, there is rumours doing the rounds that he's potentially on thin ice, Mr. Moore.
I think by the sound by reading through what's going on in the press, kind of attached to Forest that are generally kind of quite good at things. There was a meeting today of the board, whoever the board consists of, and basically I think Cooper's been told you've got the next match, but then the sporting directors come in who used to be at Watford, and there's rumours that the CEO Dave Murphy's possibly going to leave at the end of the month. You know, that the recruitment thing for Forest is very well publicised, you know, and we've kind of gone over it over again, and I've got stroppy about it over and over again about the fact that they needed to do it, and, you know, 15 out of the 26 players that finished the season at Forest left in the summer, and more went via, you know, it was never going to be an easy job. The recruitment previously made it difficult because we had to recruit new players. The recruitment policy of the club obviously hasn't made it particularly easy. You know, we've got 3 left backs at the club, and I can't understand why you've got 3 left backs at the club. You know, would be the starting point. You know, I mean, we'll talk. I'll probably talk about Cooper in more depth when we go over the games, like the results from this week.
I mean, officially, he's like I said, he's not gone yet. Officially,
no.
So.
But it's a difficult conversation. I think it's a really difficult conversation because, like, the things that you see on online is this kind of thing. You know, he's done something that, you know, nobody could do in 23 years. Yeah. And he's also about to do something again that people managed to do repeatedly over the past 23 years, is get us relegated. And, you know, you've got to be sentimental. You know, there's a level of sentimentality, and there's a lot of kind of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's only, 8 games in? But also, we're 8 games in. That's, a quarter of the season almost?
Pretty much a quarter of the season gone, yeah, exactly.
And, you know, there's a level of, you know, like, I think I saw somebody today, and, you know, and obviously, because the way some Forest fans are, and the way that they went about doing their business in the summer, they're an easy target right now. So everybody's getting their licks in. You know, every little tin pot club, Derby, who want to take shots at Forest are getting their shots in right now. And fine, whatever, but yeah, it's a difficult kind of situation to kind of to deal with, kind of thing, because the joy of May is, you know, very much in the rearview mirror now, kind of thing.
It's always a difficult one. Obviously, myself and Stuart have been through promotions to the Premier League within the last number of years, and unfortunately, it is that thing where you go from that incredible high to the realisation, oh, wait a minute, no, we aren't as strong as 80% of the teams in this division. We are going to get battered pretty much like, you know, every other week, and it's the teams that are around us in the division that we need to get the results against, and they're going to be our best shot of staying in the league. And it's just unfortunate. Obviously, I think they were always likely to get a positive result in their first home game because the atmosphere was going to bring that. You might say they got fortunate with certain decisions where they were, but they got the win. They then got a positive point away at Everton, and since then it's been more of a struggle. Obviously, they've played the issue for Forest is that they've played 2 home games against the teams that you'd argue they needed to get results against in Fulham and Bournemouth, and losing those 2. Whilst if they'd have lost, say, if they'd have played Man United at home or Chelsea at the City ground and lost those, you'd probably be saying, well, we weren't really expected to get anything from those games anyway. So it puts a different slant on it, if you know what I mean.
You contrast it, and it's probably if we kind of start to look at the results from the weekend, we can kind of talk about it a little bit more. It's the manner of the defeats as well. There was that kind of run of, obviously we played Tottenham and Man City within like days of each other, and they only lost 2-0 to Spurs. And you can't. All right, that's not a bad result. That we'll take that 2-0 at home. It's a shame to lose, and then obviously we got absolutely slapped by Man City. But then there's not many clubs who haven't got slapped by Man City this year. But then it seemed those two results just absolutely poleaxed the rest the club from there on, and it's the continual switching of the lineup as he goes in search of this team that's just doesn't seem to think. I mean, Coyote, like I said, we'll talk about him in a minute. He needs to get in the bin quickly, because why he keeps on going back to him and putting him in the centre of defence is it's the only thing that I would say that is probably wrong with the recruitment is the defence is slow, really, really slow, and that's the thing that gets punished the most in the Premiership, is that if you've got a slow defence, the strikers are 10 times quicker than your defenders, and therefore you're going to get punished. And unfortunately, it was evident last season, and it's very, very evident this season that the players that we've got in defence are too slow.
Yeah, I think that's always been the issue. Obviously, like we've come back to it before, but everyone always used to say John Terry never the quickest, but he always had a pacey defender who played alongside him that would bail him out if he ever got caught out of position. And I think that's the problem, like we said, Forest have got at the minute, in that they don't have that, basically. So they're going to have to play with a different style of system to cope or to counteract that. Now, whether that's playing a little bit deeper so they don't get caught in behind at times, maybe that's something they could look at. But it's going to take a while for the team to gel. Obviously, the amount of new players that came in, and you'd like to think if you can just get a settled side, give them a run of, say, 3, even if they do lose them, just give that same team a run of 3 games. They'll get to know each other. They'll get better with the positional side of things and stuff like that. And you never know, something might come from it in the next game. But we could sit here and dissect this for hours, and we wouldn't get anywhere. So we'll dive in to Week 10's predictions. So we started, like we said, with Friday's game, which was Hull City versus Luton. Obviously, at the time we predicted this, Hull still had Arveladze in charge. Obviously, he was dismissed prior to the game. I don't know if that had an effect on the outcome of the results, Stu, but what do you reckon?
No, from the reports I've seen and everything I've read, I wondered personally if they'd binned him off earlier in the week and the formalities were just announced on the Friday.
Like payoff and stuff like that?
Yeah. Based on what we're seeing on the pitch, they were just... I don't think they'd had time to come up with any other plan. They hadn't trained any other way, so it was all still playing out from the back and paid handsomely for it. So after 6 minutes, they helped Luton along with an own goal from Alfie Jones.
It was so unfortunate as well. It's one of these ones where like the ball like looped up, hit the bar, bounced down, hit Jones and just gone in. He couldn't do anything.
But then Henry Lansbury scored on 44 minutes, so both goals in the first half. They definitely weren't helped in any way by the manager going in that particular game. On the basis of over the entire 90 minutes, they had 11 shots. None of them were on target. So that was, I'm sure, a really, really fun watch. But another defeat. Again, what started off so well at home seems to have fallen by the wayside somewhat at that point anyway.
Not good. So a 2-0 Luton win for the first game of the week. Andy had optimistically gone for a 1-0 home win with Estepinian to score, so sadly no points there. Myself and Matt had both gone for 1-1 draws. Estepinian and Morris from Matt's predictions, and Pelkas and Morris from mine. Again, no points there. Stu, whilst his team did lose, he did predict a 1-0 win for Luton, so doesn't get any satisfaction from his team, but does get the satisfaction of getting a predictions point on the board. So after one game, Stu on the board with 1 point. Myself, Matt, and Andy still yet to score. We move to Coventry City versus Middlesbrough on Saturday. Now, Coventry went into this without a win in the league so far this season. Middlesbrough went into this without an away win in the league so far yet this season. And they still had Chris Wilder in charge. Which of those things do we think changed, apart from the Chris Wilder situation?
Which of those things didn't change, Paul?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I should have said, really. Which one didn't change? Sadly, Middlesbrough still don't have an away win in the season, but Coventry City do have their first win of the season as they managed to sneak a 1-0 win.
I will point out at this point as well, I was so convinced that you guys were going to win that you now owe me £1 from my bet that went wrong.
Oh, are we doing that? Because I need to call in money from all of you then.
How much was the return?
Nothing now, as it happens. Funnily enough, it's that age-old thing.
I'll pay you the return that you got back.
That age-old thing. If you bet £1 on Middlesbrough to win, you've spent £1.
Yeah, basically. So, yes, this was covered on another podcast that I listened to. But the goal for Coventry came from a Middlesbrough attacking throw. Excellent. So Borough had an attacking throw. 10 seconds later, the ball was in the back of the Borough net. Just another. It was another sort of indictment of when it went wrong. It went spectacularly wrong for Wilder. As we said, his choices of formation and players that he picked in the formation was a bit questionable. He decided to drop both of the attacking wing backs, so no Ryan Giles down the left, no Isaiah Jones down the right, and they got caught down the left-hand side. The ball was played in behind for Victor Gyökeres to latch onto, and the just to add insult to injury, stuck the ball through Zach Stefan's legs. So that's how the game finished, 1-0. Borough tried to get back into it, had a bit more fight in the second half, but to no avail. The game finished 1-0. Matt was the closest with a 1-1 draw. Had Godden to score for Coventry and Hoppy to score for Borough, so no points there. Andy had a 1-0 Middlesbrough win with McGree to score the goal, no points there. Stu had a 2-1 with Godden to score for Coventry, Muniz and McGree to score for the Borough. I too had a Middlesbrough 2-1 win with Muniz and Akpom to score for the Borough. My one solace is that I did have Gyökeres to score for Coventry. So that gets me my first point of the week. So myself and Stu currently residing on 1 point. Matt and Andy still to get off the mark. We move to the Monday Night Football, where Leicester City, yet to win this Premier League season, took on Nottingham Forest. Oh, Matthew. What went wrong? Did the ref blow the whistle? Is that what went wrong?
We turned up.
Yeah.
I think I messaged you guys and I said, the Forest lineup looks attacking. And then
you did say this, and then just I have a deep sense of foreboding.
I have a bad feeling about this. Everybody remembers the Mighty Boosh and the gorilla in said programme. And it played out exactly. This is the thing, and it's 3 games on the bounce now where there's this Forest concede a goal and then go, oh, I'm sorry, would you like 2 more? Just so we can put this game to bed. You know, like, and it's just, and that's what it was, you know, I think, was it, so it started with the Bournemouth game where they had 2 in 6 minutes. Fulham had 3 in 5. And this one was just the 3 in 9, just to kind of really kill the game off. And like by the sound of it, they didn't even have a foot in the game in anyway, kind of thing. So they'd kind of gone for this attacking style with. I honestly couldn't have told you what the lineup was, and that's the when you look at it and go, we got a 1-year starting, and you got Morgan's Gibbs-White starting, you got Lingard starting, and you got Johnson starting. I don't know how that works. That I genuinely don't. That, and this is the point where I'm at now, is that what, you know, and I'm kind of rehashing what Steve Cooper did for Forest last season is absolutely outstanding. At the moment, he seems out of his depth. And I don't know whether it's the volume of players, whether they can't, and like, you know, and I suppose anybody can put anything on Instagram. They seem to have a really good kind of squad mentality, and they seem to all get on well and stuff like that. But you know, and from what I've read and what I've seen, the guy that they've got at left back, Lodi, seems to just be a defensive liability. I think I've said that before. Nico Williams certainly has come out of that Liverpool factory of right backs that can't defend, and it just seems to be the 3 at the back that they insist on playing are immediately exposed to very good attacking players, and they can't cope. The first goal was a deflection, so it was really unfortunate. You know, Scott McKenna's got a big, massive chest because he's a big, massive guy, and James Maddison managed to ping it straight off that chest into the goal, and then it just falls apart. It just falls apart, and
I think they can do so much work on the field, but like we've suffered from this certainly within the last 2 seasons as well. But that is the panic when your team let a goal in. You know full well that the next 5 minutes you're going to be under the cosh again, because they just fall to, like, it's not that they give up necessarily, but they're not in the game. Like, the fact that they've gone 1 down seems to remove them from that fixture for the next 5 minutes. And if they can ride it out, fine. But a lot of the times when it doesn't, you know, like you said, they might as well have 2 or 3, and then you know what chance have you got when you're 2 down?
It's this bizarre panic that seems to kind of set in, and you know, like I said, I think obviously when we discussed it for the Fulham review, we saw it last season as well. We saw it against Bournemouth in that game just before the end of the season. We certainly saw it in the Sheffield United playoff game of, like, oh, we've conceded a goal. Oh man, well, we better not concede another, or don't concede another. Oh shit, we've conceded another. Well, we definitely better not concede another one. And it's just like this kind of like this don't do the bad thing. And you just think, yeah, don't do the bad thing. Get yourself organised. Get yourself sorted out. Get everything fucking in a row and sort yourselves out. But there doesn't seem to be a cool head anywhere. You know,
I'll never understand why it happens. Yes, it's disappointing you've gone 1 down. But if you were to say to a team, right, we're going to give you a 3 head start, surely the team going into that on the losing end of that will be like, right, we've got to do everything we can to bring this back now. And it for whatever reason during the game, that mentality goes away. It's, oh, we've let one in. Oh shit. Oh, we've let another one in. Like, there's no, like, why does it take all the fight out of a team? That's where the management needs to step in and get that right for me.
And that doesn't seem to be there in like I said, when the team was announced, I was just like, that seems really, really off. It seems really, really off. And then someone showed a picture of the game, and the amount of space for for the Leicester players to play in and play through from midfield to the defence was acres of space. It was just acres of space, and you're going to get destroyed by shit Premiership teams, not good Premierships, because they are going to wipe the floor with you. Shit Premiership teams are going to do it as well.
One thing that did come up on the radio as I was driving back from playing football on Monday when the first half was on, Danny Murphy seemed to indicate that Forest were playing a different system to what they'd been used to playing. So I don't know if they'd gone to two centre halves or maybe they were playing two centre halves with a sweeper sort of either in front of them or behind them or something like that. But like he said, he even said this once they'd gone 2-0 down, he was like, the main issue is they're playing a system they've not played for the last 6 months or whatever. So they don't know what they're doing.
The thing is, if the setup that obviously got us promoted was 5 at the back, but with 2 wing backs, 3 in midfield, but with 2 kind of holding midfielders. So Yates and Garner were that holding kind of midfielder. Then you had a Zinkernagel or whoever in front of them, and then 2 up front with Johnson and Davis or
Surrey,
like that. And I don't know if they can't find the players to play that, or whether they can't. I don't know. I thought we'd get into the Premier League. I thought we'd be solid, and we're certainly not that. We're certainly not solid, and it's just so yeah. Maddison staked his claim for England. Whatever, Daka and somebody else.
Harvey Barnes was the other one.
Harvey Barnes. I mean, maybe he staked a claim for England as well, or does he play for Wales? I can't remember.
No, he is English.
So yeah,
Yeah.
And then James Maddison proceeded to say the quiet thing loud in an interview. Basically said, "Yeah, I wanted to go to Newcastle. Then they didn't sell me." But also, we'll see what happens in January, because I'd still quite like to go to Newcastle. Thank you very much. Jesus Christ.
Oh dear. So yes, not a banner night for Nottingham Forest by any stretch of the imagination. Again, Mr. Optimistic in the corner over there. Andy Cook had gone for a 2-0 Nottingham Forest win with Johnson and Lingard to score the goals. No points there.
Jesse Lingard got himself a nice goal involvement for the Madison's first goal. Sack of shit.
Myself, Stu and Mr. Moore all went for 2-2 draws. My goal scorers for Forest were Awoniyi and Yates. Stu had Johnson and Gibbs-White, whereas Matt had Awoniyi and Johnson. So no points there for the Forest goal scorers. Stu had Harvey Barnes, tick, and Yuri Tielemans, no tick. Matt had Yuri Tielemans, no tick, but he did have Maddison, so he got himself a little tick there. I had Maddison and Barnes, so I managed to get myself 2 points there. So, after the third game of the week, I have 3 points. Stu has himself 2 points. Matt off the mark with his first point of the week, and Andy still yet to score, sadly. 2 games left. We have Hull City versus Wigan and Middlesbrough versus Birmingham City that took place this evening. But before we get into those games, we are just going to take a small comfort break. Maybe recharge your glasses. Maybe even go to the toilet yourselves. We'll be back very shortly to wrap up the remainder of Game Week 10 before we jump into Game Week 11's predictions. Join us, won't you?
Recording in progress.
Thanks for joining us again, or what's more likely, you just kept it playing as you went for your piss. We continue with Week 10, and we have, as we said before, tonight's games that took place, starting on Humberside, where Hull City took on Wigan Athletic. Mr. Woodmansey?
Yep. So, things started somewhat as they'd finished in the previous run of games, as Hull fell behind on 14 minutes, thanks to an old boy. So, Paul, I won't say this very often on a recorded format, but occasionally you can be right. Old boy rule is a thing. So there we go. But in front of the potential new manager in the stands, Hull decided they might as well have a crack at this one. So 20 minutes, Pelkas got the equaliser. Should say that the first goal from Will Keane was a headed effort, as was the equaliser. As was the eventual winner for Hull, scored in the 65th minute by Oscar Estepinian. So Hull finished the evening 2-1 winners, much, much happier on the old Humberside, as was right now.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Mr. Moore went for a 1-1 draw, so it was an Oscar Estepinian header away from a perfect score. Unfortunately, he didn't pick any of the goal scorers. He had Tufan and McGuinness to score the goals. So sadly, no points for Mr. Moore there. Both myself and Andy had 1-0 Hull City wins. So that was straight out of the window as soon as Will Keane scored for Wigan. I had Tufan to score, Andy had Long Man to score. Just the 1 point there for myself and for Mr. Cook. However, Nostradamus over there in the East Riding, picking a 2-1 Hull win with Pelkas and Estepinian to score for Hull. Did have McGuinness to score for Wigan. So not quite a clean sweep.
Wrong old boy.
Wrong old boy, exactly. But does manage to net himself 4 points from one game. So, after 4 games of the week, I have 4 points. Stu has 6 points. Matt and Andy both on 1 apiece. We finished the week on Teesside, as all good weeks should finish. Said no one ever.
With start a better week because you leave, is what you mean.
I mean, how dare you? With Middlesbrough taking on Birmingham City, obviously the first game of the Leo Perkovic era, and it started remarkably well with a 1-0 Middlesbrough win. Obviously watched a little bit of this as we were taking care of a little bit of other business that you might be able to hear in the coming days. Who knows? Just keep an eye on your feeds. Might be there, might not. Chuba Akpom back in the team after his return to fitness. He was on the subs bench on Saturday, but did get on. Started this evening. And was rewarded Mr. Perkovic with the first and therefore only goal of the game. After that, there was a few chances here and there, but eventually, obviously, the game just sort of petered out and Middlesbrough were able to hang on for the 1-0 win. Mr. Moore, again, with the 1-1 draw scoreline, sadly getting himself no points, and he had Muniz and Hogan to score the goal. So no points there for Mr. Moore at all, unfortunately. Andy, very optimistic. He'd gone for the 3-0 win for the Borough. Point for the result, but he had Fours, Hoppy and Watmore to score. Sadly, no points for the goal scorers there. Me, not quite as optimistic as Mr. Cook, but I went for the 2-0 Middlesbrough win, so point for the result. I had Watmore and McGree to score. No points there. Nostradamus over there in the East Riding picked a 1-0 Middlesbrough win. 2 points for the result and the correct scoreline. He did, however, have Giles to score. That did not happen. So, rounding out the week, Mr. Moore, unfortunately, only has 1 point from 5 games. Mr. Cook, 2 points from 5 games. I've managed to round myself out and get myself a little average of a point a game to get myself on 5. But taking the win with a very, very respectable 8 points is Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. Well done to you, sir. Well done.
Yes, I finally won a week. I finally won. I can go home now. Oh, wait a minute.
Absolutely. We immediately move into week 11, and there's only 3 games to pick here, as I believe it's... No, it's not Capital One Cup, as it's Champions League next week, so there must be...
Champions League.
Just no need for championship games midweek. We start. This is another weekend where we have games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. 2 of which are on Sky, 1 of which is not. Which is the first game we start with, which is Millwall taking on Middlesbrough. Obviously, it's my team, so I will go last. Mr. Cook, what have you got down for this one?
So, as we've seen from this evening's game, I've noticed a trend where a new manager is put in place and teams tend to sort of chivvy a little.
Before you go any further, I will point out that the best Middlesbrough have done away from home this season so far is 1 draw. They've lost all the rest.
Doesn't matter. They're going to turn it all around. I've not gone quite full-blown Middlesbrough on this one. I've gone with a 2-1 win for the Borough. I tried my best to get a Millwall player and came up with a Phobe.
Very nice.
And weirdly, I was like, do you know what? I know he is still at Middlesbrough, so I'm going to put him down for a goal. I've got Chuba and Fours. I may have gone a little too late on the Chuba train, I'm afraid, but hey.
Akpom and Fours. Fours did come on tonight and put himself about a bit, made himself look half decent, so he might be in with a chance for a little game time on Saturday. Mr. Moore?
I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Interesting. And your goal scorers, please.
I mean, I'm going to take every chance to pick him whenever I can. I've got the Honeyman scoring for Millwall.
Podcast favourite, dancing back into the room, George Honeyman.
Aye. And Muniz for
Will Honeyman be the money man for Mr. Moore? Look at this. Unbelievable. For those of you not watching on the YouTubes, Mr. Woodmansey has picked Millwall 1, Middlesbrough 1 with Honeyman and Muniz to score the goals.
I got the wrong old boy for my last week's predictions. Now I've just got the wrong team's old boy in this.
You have. And unfortunately, lads, you've all forgotten that George Saville used to play for the Borough. I too have gone for a 1-1 draw with George Saville to score for Millwall and Akpom to score for the Borough. We move to the Sunday fixture, which I believe is at 12 p.m. maybe?
Correct.
This is live on Sky, and it is Huddersfield Town taking on Hull City. Mr. Woodmansey's team, so he will go last. I'll dive in on this one. Much like the Middlesbrough-Millwall game, I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I've gone for Jordan Rhodes to score for Huddersfield, and I've gone for Cyrus Christie to get a goal for Hull. Again, old boy rule sort of applies, but not for Huddersfield, for Forest and Borough. Mr. Moore.
I mean, I was laughing because we both watched him play. There's not a cat and mouse chance he's scoring a goal.
When he was at Borough, I liked him, but obviously he was a player who showed a little bit of flair, and then Tony Pulis came in and said, "Well, let's start off you go."
I have gone for a 2-1 Hull win.
Ooh, yes. Goal scorers, please.
Rhodes for Huddersfield. Estepinian and Longman.
Yeah, he's back at it after tonight in the old Estu. And old Longy, he's overdue a goal.
Longman came off the bench tonight as well, so he's had the Luton game he started. The Wigan game, he's come off the bench. So it depends what they do. They've got Cynic now as well, which they keep flip-flopping him with. So we'll see.
There was a guy I was going to ask you about, actually. I think it might have been him. Cynic or whatever it is. Mr. Cook, what have you got for this one?
Very similar to you boys. I've got Huddersfield 1, Hull 1, Rhodes and Estupinian to score.
Go on then, Mr. Woodmansey. Look into your crystal ball and tell us what the actual result's going to be, because obviously everyone's going to want to put money on this, given the last two results. So,
Huddersfield 3, Hull City 1.
oh dear.
We've never travelled to Huddersfield well. I don't know what it is about this thing, because the players that are there now have probably never even been to Huddersfield. Well, a couple of them might have. But yeah, I've got Rhodes, Holmes and Kamara for Huddersfield. And the aforementioned Cynic.
Don't suppose you want to spell that one for us, do you?
Sinik.
Cynic. Lovely. We round out the week with their second consecutive appearance on the Monday Night Football for Nottingham Forest. This time it will take place at the City Ground and they will take on Aston Villa. Nice and simple with this one. Obviously, Mr. Moore will go last as his team. I think this one could be a bit boring. I've gone for a 0-0 draw on this one. Nice and basic. Don't concede. Keep it nice and tight. Just get a point. Get them to the back an even keel. Mr. Woodmansey.
How many times are you going to flog that? Or a team's been beaten. It'll be 0-0 the next game. How many points? Anyway, I can say that this week. I also do think it'll be a draw, but I think they'll score. So I've gone for 1-1. And I've gone for Johnson and Watkins.
Now, off the top of my head, I don't know if there are any old boys in play on this one. Oh, Cash.
Yep.
Thought about that. Mr. Cook.
I'm very much with you, Mr. Williams, but I see a goal. And I think Forest are going to just sort of manage to right the ship a little. Get one goal from Johnson. So 1-0 with Johnson to score.
To round out the week deliciously, Mr. Moore, tell us how this one's going to go down.
I love how you, like, some of you kept it low, considering 4 goals, 5 goals, 5 goals, 6 goals is like the last 4 games. You know, just the kind of thing. I've gone for 3-1 Villa.
Oh. But Stevie Gerrard.
Yeah, but Brendan Rodgers. Well, not Scott Parker. Had Scott Parker been sacked? Yeah, Scott Parker had just been sacked. Fucking Gary O'Neill. I mean, seriously, like, you know, take your pick out of dog shit manager X comes and makes his name at Forest by giving us an absolute thumping. So, yeah, Dennis to score for Forest.
Nice.
Coutinho, Watkins and McGinn to kind of thing. And I've gone not with old boy rules as in potential signing, but turned us down to go to Villa instead, signing in John McGinn.
I didn't even know you were in for McGinn.
Yeah, at the same time that he went to Villa. Villa were in the Championship. It's the year they went up.
Yeah. Do you reckon it was a case of Forest tried to sign him but then pulled out when they saw how massive his arse was?
I don't know. I don't think. I'm not sure that that's part of their recruitment policy.
Yeah, well, it probably should.
Maybe that's what they've gone away from this season.
Well, they probably were like, listen, mate. We'd love to sign you, but unfortunately, our shorts only go up to 5XL. You fat bastard.
Marinakis comes in. Oh, your bottom. It makes mine look twice as big as what it was before.
It's making me sick.
More gyros for you.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the week's predictions. Unless you gentlemen have anything else to bring to the party. The only other thing I will say is that obviously the latest odds came out for the Borough manager position, and it was announced on Twitter that they were interested in speaking to obviously Rob Edwards, who lost his job at Watford. He was an early front runner, and the other name that was doing the rounds was the aforementioned Gary O'Neill, to which people dug up an appearance he made on a podcast where he said the only time in his career where he actively went to get a booking was when he was playing for the Borough against Bolton Wanderers, and he wanted the weekend off so he could watch the Masters with his mates. He did score in the game, but he also got himself booked, so he would miss the next week's game. The outrage that went around on Twitter when Borough fans found out that he was in the running for the manager's job went pretty much wild, and he was later announced to no longer be under contention.
Is that not akin to match fixing? Is that not akin to match fixing?
Yeah, well, I imagine he gets around it now by the fact that when he came out and said it, he was no longer playing, so they couldn't really do anything against him.
As long as his mates didn't put like a shit ton of money on him definitely getting booked in that game, then I mean that would be the match fixing side of things.
I think you'll find, Paul, they could still probably retrospectively punish him by signing him to be the Middlesbrough manager.
You will work the Masters weekend this time, you
Anyway.
can't get booked for this, Gary. You've got to be a back
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's another week done and dusted. Fingers crossed, by the time we record next week, one, if not both of the clubs may have a permanent manager in place. You never know. By this time next week, Forest might not have a permanent manager in place. But we'll wait and see. All that's left for me to do is to thank these three lovely gentlemen for joining me once again to take us through the delightful and, definitely not at any time miserable world of football.
Yes.
Again next week where we'll chop it all up again, turn it over, give it a nice, seasoned crust, and then serve it to you wonderful people via your ear and, eye holes. Until then, goodbye for now.
So there you go, what do you think to that? Changes at the top, maybe changes on the field, on the pitch. It's not field, is it? What do I know? Big thank you to listeners, watchers and subscribers. You too can be a subscriber by clicking that subscribe button. That way you'll know when there's more new content coming your way. If you want to check out our website, it's thequickiecast.com. Over there, there's social media links and an email button for you to get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Till next time, say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.